Again, I'll repeat that. When we have 2 units, you're going to approach it where you're going to cover one of the units up, and you're going to do 1 unit at a time, then go back to the other unit, and then convert that, ignoring what you've already done. Which unit do you guys want to do first here? Miles, okay. Where does miles have to go if it's going to cancel out? Right, we're trying to go from miles to kilometers because that's distance to distance, and they're both on the top. Where does miles have to go then to get it to kilometers in our next conversion factor, our fraction? If it's on the top, where does it have to go, folks? On the bottom. So miles is down on the bottom. Do miles and kilometers go directly to each other with information you're given? Yes, they do. Abby, can you tell me how they relate to one another?
1 mile equals 1.609 kilometers.
Absolutely. 1 mile is 1.609 kilometers. Are we good with our distance unit then? Absolutely, right? Because we got kilometers in the top. So now we go back and we look at the bottom, and we cancel out, not cancel everything out, we ignore all this right up in here. So ignore what you've done with these 3 spaces. Now we're going to add a new T-chart. Okay. Where does hours have to go to get it to cancel out? On the top. If it's on the bottom, it goes on the top to cancel out. If it's on the top, it goes to the bottom. Hours and minutes, we should know how those are related to one another. Hours will cancel out. 1 hour has how many minutes?
60.
Oh, look, this math, guys, you shouldn't even need a calculator for this. Why? Notice, we've got a 60 on the top right here and a 60 on the bottom. It's the same thing like with our units, guys. If you've got the same number on the top of a fraction as you do the bottom, you can cancel them out because it's like saying 60 divided by 60. That's going to give us what? It's just 1. So that's all we have to do here, guys. So our final answer, you can do the math to check and see if I'm right. 1.609 kilometers per minute. Questions? All right, I want you guys, let's do another one together, and then I'll have you guys try one on your own. So we've got 8.2 grams per mil. Set it up the same way. Write down your given. 8.2 grams per milliliter goes on the bottom. Which unit? Let's do the other unit first. You guys have told me the top every time. Let's do the bottom just for the sake of seeing, hey, we can still do the process the same way. It doesn't matter which one you do first. So we're going to cover up the 8.2. We're not going to look at that. Let's look at milliliters. Where does milliliters have to go to cancel out? On the top, because it was on the bottom. Now, we're trying to go from milliliters to liters. So, in this fraction that we've written out here, the second one, do we have the metric system only, or do we have the metric system and English system? Just the metric. Which one always gets the number 1 with the metric system? The prefix. So 1 milliliter is how many liters? 10 to the -3. Again, if you forget that, guys, write out your metric sidewalk or look in your reference packet. Table C has it. Milliliters are gone. All right, so liters are good. Now we'll go back to grams. Ignore that second fraction, the one that has milliliters and liters in it. We just did that. Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me. Holy cow. All right, ignore that middle one. So now we're going to continue on like they're next to each other. Where does grams have to go? On the bottom. Kilograms, so it's metric system. Which one gets the number 1? Excuse me. Kilograms is on the top. It gets 1 because it has a prefix. Grams, how many grams are there in a kilogram? 10 to the third. Do the math. What should you end up with here, folks? Oh, yeah. 8.2. All right, it just happened to work out that way. All right, you guys try this problem. 24 kilometers per hour to miles per second. If I'm going too fast and you're struggling and you have questions, raise your hand. Now's the time to do that. So I'm going to start working this problem out. Check your work. I'm going to kind of explain it as I go along. If you're still working, keep going. So kilometers is in the top. It needs to go on the bottom. We're trying to get it to miles per second. So kilometers on the bottom, miles on the top. If you look at your conversion factors, 1 mile is 1.609 kilometers. So our distance unit is done. We've converted from kilometers to miles. Now we're going to get our timepiece. Now there's two ways that you can go about this. You may know how many seconds are in an hour off the top of your head, and that's great, but be careful, is all I'm going to say. I'm going to show it out going from hours to minutes and then minutes to seconds. So hours is on the top, minutes on the bottom. 1 hour is 60 minutes. Zach asked a good question, guys. He said, which one gets a 1? Well, sometimes when you're dealing with units like this, they may not just be a 1, but typically if there is, when you're in the English system, the bigger unit is going to have the number 1 with it. All right? 1 second, I'll get your question. Or did I write something wrong up there?
You crossed out miles and minutes.
Oh, I did. Look at that. Good call. So, hours is what I meant to cancel out. There we go. So here we go then, 60 minutes. We need to get to seconds. Minutes on the top, seconds on the bottom. 1 minute is 60 seconds. So when you do that math, you should end up with a final answer. Who can tell me? Cambria? 0.0041 miles per second. Do we agree with her? Very, very tiny number. Absolutely. Now, how many seconds, guys, are in an hour? Okay, 3,600, 3,600. I cannot tell you on tests and quizzes how many times I see students tell me that 1 hour is 60 seconds. Okay, I've seen that many, many times in the past. Okay, you think, oh, that's easy. I wouldn't. Hey, when you're under a time crunch, just be careful. That's all I'm going to say. Okay, there technically are 60 seconds in an hour, but there's also a lot more. Okay, so just make sure you are aware of that. I don't care if you do it 1 step or 2 steps. Just make sure you know and you get that right. Is it getting easier, these two double unit conversions? Same process. You just got to take it step by step, piece by piece. All right. Let's take a look. This is a different one. I believe that you guys have this. So we've got a couple things here, right? Where should we start? There's a couple different things going on with a word problem like this. Where should we start? Okay, what do you mean by conversion, Tony?
You should convert miles per hour to meters per minute.
Okay, so that's kind of the first way, guys, what he said. Same idea. We're going to try to go from our 1 unit that we're starting with to our end. But my whole point with saying that is always start with your givens. We have 55 miles per hour. I'm going to set up my T-chart. We know we have minutes, and we're trying to get to meters. How many meters will you go in 20 minutes? So we want to get to meters per minute. We'll deal with that 20 at the end. Okay, we'll deal with that 20 at the end. Go through that same process we just went through. We'll give you guys a couple minutes. Try it on your own. Go from miles per hour to meters per minute. So when you do this, guys, this is how you should have it set up. 55 miles times 1.609 kilometers times 10 to the third meters. All right, multiply those three together, then divide by 60 minutes. What do you get for meters per minute? How many meters per minute are we traveling? Anybody? So Alex says 1,500. Now, you rounded there, right? To correct sig figs. Did anybody else get something besides 1,500? What was it not rounded?
I got 1,474.
Okay. So I like that you rounded there, and you told me to correct sig figs. But are we done with this problem yet? No, we're not. So we should wait to report our final answer. We'll see what happens in just a second with what you were saying. And you're absolutely right with your thinking there, Alex. But we want to hold out some more digits here until the very end. Always wait until the very last step to round. So 1,474 meters. What did you say? 0.92. Okay, so we've got 1,474.92 meters per minute. Okay? The beauty, guys, about this process is that we are given 20 minutes. So you could even do it in your T-chart. I ran out of space there, but we could actually add a whole nother T right here and say, oh, we want to get rid of minutes. Okay? We only want to have miles. How far? I'm sorry, not miles, meters. We want to figure out how many meters will we go in 20 minutes. So what we can do then is we can just multiply by that 20 minutes that we have. And I know I'm writing over that, and I apologize. Okay. We could set it up like this. Would I put anything on the bottom then here? No, we could put a 1 as a placeholder. Whenever you don't have some guys that goes in the bottom, you can put a 1 there as a placeholder. But this will get you to the same answer, whether you do it like this, do your math out, and then multiply it by that 20 to cancel out. The whole idea, guys, with this process, dimensional analysis, is we look at our units to drive our math to help us set up our fractions to get to our final answer. So, when we multiply 1474.92 times 20, what do we get for our final answer?
For a sig fig, I got 29,000.
So he got 29,000 when we rounded to correct sig figs.
It's like 29,409.
Right, so it's like 29, you said 49. Remember the last one? Was that, it was an 8? Okay, so that's how he rounded down there. So, if you did the 1500, Alex, do you see how that we could be off a little bit? Wait until the very end to round. Have a seat. So,